What's up, guys? So, today I finally wanted to resume our little topic of going over the 70 something different orientations that there are. And it was getting interesting because it seems that if there are two sexes, then there should be one orientation or maybe two or three, like nothing beyond bi and homo, but clearly it needs to be complicated than that, more complicated than that, because that's just how life has to be. But anyways, I believe that I stopped at cis sexism last time, so we're gonna read that one and go over it and see what it says. Behavior that grants preferential treatment to cisgender people reinforces the idea that being cisgender is somehow better or more right than being transgender, and or makes other genders invisible. Well, my reaction to that has to be, I'm someone who actually goes around saying that I feel that the right thing to be is straight, just because I feel like the human body is designed with the intent to be able to fulfill a reproductive role. But if that is the wrong mindset to have, then I guess, I don't know, sorry, but but that's just how I think. Because if we're designed differently, male, female, then it is for a purpose. And for us to attempt to start pretending that that's not a thing, it's just kind of weird for me. But anyways, that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to say that this is wrong. I'm just trying to say why I cannot just necessarily be on board with this just the way it is. But anyways, then there's also cisnormativity, which is the assumption in individuals or in institutions that everyone is cisgender, and that cisgender identities are superior to trans identities or people, leads to invisibility of non cisgender identities. Well, I feel like, hello, Philip, and good evening for me. It is good evening for me. Um, when it comes to the assumptions that cisgender is supposed to be superior, I mean, when we look at it from the point of view of what it actually accomplishes, I want to agree with that. But if it's presented from the point of view of it being condescending to trans people, then I would have a problem with that, because I don't think that no single human being is just better than another human being, and it doesn't matter what the specialty is on that other person. Like, you will excel on some things that I won't excel at, and etc. So to have a mindset that's arrogant from that point of view, that I would disagree with. But when it comes to fulfilling a role in life, I want to say that I feel that being cisgender is the right thing to be, because that's the thing that actually gives the result. If cisgender wasn't the right thing to do, why would you need medical assistance to conceive? Or why would you need to adopt a child to be able to become a parent if you are not a hetero person? See what I mean? So if we limit it to just that, then yes, I want to say that the right thing to be is hetero. But I'm not really someone who is in a position to say that with absolute certainty, because I'm not someone who experiences homosexuality. And I therefore do not have an understanding of why the people who identify as such say and feel what they express. But I can only try to understand, but I know that because it's something that I won't be able to ever relate to, then it's just strange for me to try to make sense of this. Then there's the closeted term, which we know what that means, so I'm going to skip over it. Coming out, we know what that means, so I'm just going to skip over it. There's the constellation, which I remember I read last time. It's a way to describe the arrangement or structure of a polyamorous relationship. A cross-dresser, someone who wears clothes or of another gender and sex, which I guess that applies to me, because when I was a teenager, especially, I loved wearing sporty clothes, and the designs in the men's department tend to be better in my eyes. So I did that a lot. It did not impact my attraction toward males in any way. And then there was the demi-romantic or demi-romantic, little or no capacity to experience romantic attraction until a strong sexual or emotional connection is formed with another individual, often within a sexual relationship. And then the demisexual, little or no capacity to experience sexual attraction until a strong romantic or emotional connection is formed with another individual, often within a romantic relationship, which is, it's weird to me that you have to actually create that word, create that definition to say that that is an orientation. To me, an orientation should just be okay, I'm someone who, I'm just a girl and I like guys, but just because I like guys doesn't mean that I love to be uber romantic. Or it doesn't mean that I'm also this person who is very sexually driven a lot. You know, I think that orientation should be a matter of, are you into the opposite sex or no? But for some reason, we have to have all these definitions and all these specifications, which for for the matter of understanding what someone is like in the dating sector, I get it. But to straight up call this an orientation, I think these terms should have their own little, what can I say? Another classification. Just let's say use them as adjectives to describe the kind of relationship that one can anticipate if we ever get involved with you, as opposed to just being like, oh yeah, that is a sexual orientation. Like, no, no, it's complicated. Down low, typically referring to men who identify as straight but secretly have sex with men. Down low or DL originated in and is most commonly used in communities by color. Well, when it comes to that one, I want to say that my reaction to that is that it's someone who just wants to explore. And honestly, with the individuals who are curious and they like to explore, I don't have anything against that. But what I would have an issue with is if you try to encourage, say, someone like me into trying it and accepting it and being involved with it. And you trying to convince me that I won't know that it's good until I try it. So like say whatever the term for female would be, someone who is a female who's straight and then secretly gets involved with other girls, like, no, I don't need to experiment to know that I'm not going to like it. So that would be the only way I would have an issue with that. Then there's the drag king, which is someone who performs masculinity theatrically. And then the drag queen, someone who performs femininity theatrically. And then the dyke, referring to a masculine presenting lesbian. While often used derogatorily, it can, and wait, it can is adopted. Okay, someone fucked that up. It is adopted affirmatively by many lesbians, both more masculine and more feminine, presenting lesbians, not necessarily masculine ones, as a positive self identity term. I have heard that term before, and I remember that one of my favorite ways that I heard that was this channel called TFS, Team Four Star. They did an episode on like the Saiyans. It was the Bardock movie, and then the female Saiyan. They were saying that she's a raging dyke. So yeah, I guess it's just a very hardcore lesbian, like the types who are really masculine, which I guess we see that when it comes to couples that are homosexual, we're often looking for who's more masculine, who's more feminine. So in a lesbian couple, it's like who's the man in the relationship, which to me is weird. If you're in a homosexual relationship, I would expect that you're not trying to be compared to a man because you're not involved with it. So that's something that just confuses me on matters like this. But anyways, I just roll with it. A bull died. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Emotional attraction. They call that an orientation. A capacity that evokes the want to engage in romantic, intimate behavior, sharing, confiding, trusting, interdependent, experience in varying degrees from little to none to intense, often conflated with sexual attraction, romantic attraction, and or spiritual attraction. I would expect that that's something that's complementary with relationships. Like I would expect that if you're in a serious relationship, being emotionally attracted is part of the package. Unless, of course, that's a fire that you're not feeding. Just look at nature and all the beautiful creatures existing in their own small communities. The only threat to their existence is us scary humans. They don't have definition problems. Exactly. And have you guys been hearing about the stories of like these two female mice that I think it was in China, it was somewhere, that they assisted with them becoming surrogates or something, and then their children ended up being healthy, whereas the male mice, their offspring died or something. And I'm like, wait, did you actually make male mice pregnant? To me, that was kind of weird, but I didn't read the article, so I couldn't tell you. I just saw the headline. But I'm thinking that when it comes to that type of experimentation, I feel like it's something that we're messing with that's getting out of control, because someone's argument was that this is good because it would help lesbian couples to have their own children without having a sperm donor. And then what I have to say about that is, well, the idea is for males and females to come together to produce offspring. So for me to try to normalize the fact that if you're a lesbian, you can have your own kids, to me it's just a bizarre thing. It's like I don't want to sound like I'm intolerant of it. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to be involved in it. But what worries me is that I'm not really sure what contributes to overpopulation, what exactly makes it a big problem and make it go out of control. But what would happen to folks who, like kids who need to be adopted? See what I mean? I know that straight couples can still adopt, those will continue to adopt, but I feel like adoption rates would decline because homosexual couples are not going to adopt anymore. And I'm not saying that adoption is going to solve society's problems, but I'm just saying that there are kids out there who are looking to have a home. So to normalize the fact that you can pretty much reproduce with yourself or someone of the same sex is just kind of weird for me. It just is. I try to make sense of it, but I cannot comprehend it. The faggot is a derogatory term referring to a gay person or someone perceived as queer, occasionally used as a identifying, affirming term by some gay men at times in the shortened form fag. Yeah, we hear that a lot, and some guys are actually sensitive to that word. Like, I have actually heard guys who are not straight engaging in conversations, and one of the things they say is, whatever you do, don't call me a faggot. So I can imagine that no one wants to be called by derogatory terms, but anyways, language, it's something that's ever evolving. Feminine of center, masculine of center. Never heard of that. A word that indicates a range of terms of gender identity and gender presentation for folks who present, understand themselves, and or relate to others in a more feminine, masculine way, but don't necessarily identify as women or men. Feminine of center individuals may also identify as femme, submissive, transfeminine, etc. Masculine of center individuals may also often identify as butt, stud, aggressive, boy, transmasculine, etc. What? So I'm guessing it's pretty much acting like the opposite of what you are? I don't know. This whole thing is weird to me. Relate to others in a more feminine or masculine role, but don't necessarily identify as women or men. Incomprehensible. Metrosexual. I'm pretty sure I'm getting to that one. Feminine presenting, masculine presenting is a way to describe someone who expresses gender in a more feminine, masculine way, often confused with feminine of center, masculine of center, which generally include a focus on identity as well as expression. Femme, someone who identifies themselves as feminine, whether it be physically, mentally, or emotionally, often used to refer to a feminine presenting queer woman. Trans feminine facepalm. Yeah, it's like this just keeps getting more and more complicated. I'm a masculine centered lesbian. Yeah, it almost sounds like you have your identity, but you still don't want to be considered your assigned sex. Am I getting that right? I am an attached helipo- helipoder. Helicopter. I read that as helicopter, but you said helipoder. Is that a typo? Because my my vocabulary today has been really suffering. I wish I could tell you the story to you guys about the one word in this life that trips me. I may do a separate stream on it because it's embarrassing. Fluidity, generally with another term attached like gender fluid or fluid sexuality. Fluidity describes an identity that may change or shift over time between or within the mix of the options available: man and woman, bi and straight. In other words, versatility. The fact that you're actually calling this an orientation. Now, that's rude, my man. I identify as the velociraptor named Blue. Oh, yeah, Blue. She was a cool character in Jurassic Park. Let's see. F, T, M, F2M, F, MTF, M2F. Fuck me. Female to male, transgender or transsexual person. Male to female, transgender or transsexual person. Fuck me. Gay. Individuals who are primarily emotionally, physically, and or sexually attracted to members of the same sex and or gender. More commonly used when referring to men who are attracted to other men but can be applied to women as well. An umbrella term used to refer to the queer community as a whole or as an individual identity label for anyone who does not identify as heterosexual. That's true because I always wondered why some females would say, "Oh yeah, my mom knows that I'm gay," and I'm like, "Lesbian." Yeah, it's the same thing. So I'm like, okay. The first time I ever heard of homosexuality, period, the first word I ever heard in my life was gay. So, yeah. What is a pansexual? I'm sure I'll get to that one today. I hope so. If I am a straight male and cry during a drama movie, will that make me trans feminine? I think it means gay. Pansexuals love regardless of sex. Oh boy. Gay is a word that's had many different meanings throughout time. In the 12th century, it meant happy. In the 17th century, it was more commonly used to mean immoral, describing a loose and pleasure seeking person. I didn't know that one. And by the 19th century, it meant a female prostitute. I did not know that. And a gay man was a guy who had sex with female prostitutes a lot. It wasn't until the 20th century that it started to mean what it means today. Interesting, right? Interesting indeed. And that's the thing. Words keep having their meanings altered. And maybe that's really where the confusion really stems from. Pans or pans? Pans. You know, I have a lot of those in the kitchen. Gender expression is the external display of one's gender through a combination of dress, demeanor, social behavior, and other factors generally made sense of on scales of masculinity and femininity, also referred to as gender presentation. Okay. Oh, I skipped one. Gender binary. The idea that there are only two genders and that every person is one of those two. Which is what I personally would expect by natural design is the case, but clearly not. Pans are sexy. I love to make food in them on the stove. Yeah, tell me about it, especially sprinkle some salt on them and add water and see it bubble. Gender fluid is a gender identity best described as a dynamic mix of boy and girl. A person who is gender fluid may always feel like a mix of the two traditional genders, but may feel more men some days and more women other days. Yeah, that's just no, no. Gender identity, the internal perception of one's gender and how they label themselves based on how much they align or don't align with what they consider, what they understand their opinions. Wait. Oh, okay, I see what happened. Okay, I'm gonna start over. The internal perception of one's gender and how they label themselves based on how much they align or don't align with what they understand their options for gender to be. Common identity labels include man, woman, genderqueer, trans, and more, often confused with biological sex or sex assigned at birth. So, usually, most conversations stem from this. My gender identity is this and that, although my physical sex dictates another thing. When it comes to gender identity, I honestly think that some people just aren't down with the gender roles that are assigned by society, but deep down, they may wish to have their sex altered to be able to fit in to what they feel suits them best. See what I mean? But I want to reserve that exclusively for the folks who end up regretting changing, changing their sex. Because I have heard about trans people who end up regretting that they changed. Doesn't non binary contradict the word gender? Exactly. That's exactly what I have always thought. Gender neutral says see a gender. Should I read that in French? Neutral. Since it ends in OIS. Gender non-conforming. A gender expression descriptor that indicates a non-traditional gender presentation, masculine, woman, or feminine man. A gender identity label that indicates a person who identifies outside of the gender binary, often abbreviated as GNC, General Nutrition Center. Gender normative, gender straight, someone whose gender presentation, whether by nature or by choice, aligns with society's gender based expectations. See, this is what gets me. Because society has been around for a long time, I would expect that society has figured out what kinds of things tend to, let me be specific, what kind of behaviors, activities, preferences, just behaviors in general, present themselves in men and in women. So, therefore, society felt comfortable enough to write some kind of, what can I say? Let's call it a constitution of, the expectation of men is that they're going to be the providers, the builders, and this and that. The expectations of women is you're the one who gives life, so you're going to be the carer, the teacher, the upbringer, etc., etc. I cannot believe that after thousands of years of being part of a community, we got this all wrong. And all of a sudden, we are trying to say that that gender identity is not suitable for someone who is born physically male, for instance, to dislike the things that are associated with manly activities. Gender roles do not exist. There is an article about it. Nope, he or she, him or her, the rest are just words to make themselves sound more educated than the rest of us. GNC sounds like a health bar. Over here, we have somewhere called General Nutrition Center, which is literally a place where you can buy supplements. in my North Skyrim guard accent. Who took my gender role? Oh, oh man. Genderqueer, a gender identity label often used by people who do not identify with the binary of man, woman, or as an umbrella term for many gender non-conforming or non-binary identities. A gender, bigender, gender fluid may combine aspects man and women and other identities, bigender, pangender, not having a gender or identifying with a gender, genderless, agender, moving between genders, gender fluid. If you are gender fluid, it's only talking about, it's not talking about like sex fluid, which I know it's another weird image that may come to your head, but gender means pretty much the roles assigned to you. And then sex is what you physically are. So let's say that there is such thing as sex fluidity. So it's trying to say that if you are a trans person and you transitioned into the sex that you feel you correspond to, then you cannot actually be a sex fluid, gender fluid person, because would you be taking reversal surgery all the time? So that's the reason why I feel like sometimes I gotta question stuff from time to time because it's just weird. And when I see the word gender fluid, yeah, it's weird. It's just weird. Third gender or other gendered includes those who do not place a name to their gender having an overlap of or blurred lines between gender identity and sexual and romantic orientation. So this honestly sounds like the people involved in this stuff are confused themselves and they're just trying to make sense of it all. Gender variant. Someone who either by nature or by choice does not conform to gender based expectations of society, transgender, transsexual, intersex, genderqueer, crossdresser, etc. Gynosexual, gynophilic, being primarily sexually, romantically, and or emotionally attracted to some woman, females, or femininity. So I guess it's trying to say if you're a man or woman, doesn't matter. That's when you find yourself attracted to females. So to all straight guys out there, you are gynosexual. Isn't it easier to just say straight? I mean, why do we need a term for that? Heteronormativity. The assumption in individuals or in institutions that everyone is heterosexual, asking a woman if she has a boyfriend, and that heterosexuality is superior to all other sexualities, leads to invisibility in stigmatizing of other sexualities. Heteronormativity also leads us to assume that only masculine men and feminine women are straight. Hey, I meet someone and I'm like, hey, my name is Zam, and I am a heteronormative person. There's no way I'm going to remember that word after today. A hermaphrodite, an outdated medical term previously used to refer to someone who was born with some combination of typically male and typically female sex characteristics. It's considered stigmatizing and inaccurate. No, 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 no. Because all this time, I felt that hermaphrodite was a very much not outdated term used to describe a, let's call it a mistake in the genetic sequence that often leads a body subdeveloped. And what I mean by that is that the body just couldn't decode its genetic sequence well enough for you to be born absolutely male or absolutely female. And you end up having both terms. That, I want to say, is perfectly acceptable because there is such thing as mistakes in DNA, mutations. So I can believe that someone can be born with two sexes at the same time. And then you have to somehow determine which sex you're supposed to favor more. I'm not going to get very sciencey on what causes hermaphrodism because I honestly am not qualified to talk about that. But if I were to illustrate it, the way I look at it is it's like you have the chromosomes, but it hasn't decided if it has another X or another Y. So instead, it puts a Z on it. I don't know, just to explain it crazy. That I can be like, okay, that is not actually a sexual orientation. That's not a sexual uh, preference. That's just a medical condition. So again, that's anything that I express here is just my opinion. I'm not trying to say that I am right or that my interpretation of it is correct, but this is just how I think and the reason why I cannot really roll with some of this stuff. Let me see what you guys are saying. I don't want to fall behind. Huh. Why add gender to genderqueer? Would you just not easily use the word queer? Exactly. Wait, so cross-dresser isn't a definition? Isn't that just transsexual or transgender? Now you're starting to see why this stuff confuses me. Because I feel like some of these terms are repetitive and slightly tweaked, but that slight tweakedness doesn't really add or take anything away from it, personally. Hermaphrodites is a scientific term, aka intersex. Intersex is a PC term. Your opinions is what brings me here. All good. Yeah, this is all about having a conversation. I have met individuals had hair in my mouth that they're not straight, and I would love to know more about them. But how do you initiate the conversation of, hey, bruh, let's talk about how gay you are, because I'm not gay, but I cannot even begin to imagine what it's like to be attracted to someone of my own sex. Let's completely dissect your sexual life. Ain't nobody comfortable. Ain't nobody ready for that. So at least I want to be able to openly have the discussion here, especially with other fellow folks who feel just as lost as confused as me. And it's because this is a conversation that we are promoting, but at the same time, when it's brought up, we don't know how to handle it. So yeah, that's why I created this topic. I just wanna do it and be different. Asexual is different from hermaphrodite. Asexual is the ability to reproduce by itself. Exactly. Most transvestites are mostly straight, just like to dress in girls' clothing. I have heard about that before. I have heard about that before. Um, let's see, where did I stop? Heteronormativity, the assumption in individuals and or institutions that everyone is heterosexual and that heterosexuality is superior to all other sexualities. That sounds like something I read a few moments ago. Leads to invisibility and stigmatizing of other sexualities when learning a woman is married, asking her what her husband's name is. Heteronormativity also leads us to assume that only masculine men and feminine women are straight. So heteronormativity is a thing because what is normal is that if your body is designed with certain like things, certain traits, it's so that you are compatible with someone who is unlike you. In other words, I'm a female, I am going to be compatible with a male for the purpose of reproduction. That is normal. Because if it weren't normal, if a hetero man and hetero woman, however many years ago you were born, had not decided to get together, your existence would not be possible. So it is normal that it is assumed that someone is going to be heterosexual because that is what makes human life possible. So I'm not offended by that. I'm not sensitive about it. But of course, I'm not a member of the non-straight community. But see what I mean? When it comes to heteronormativity, that's just it's kind of the right thing because that's what's most normal. That's what makes human existence and human life possible. If it were not normal, then we would really have a big issue in our hands. But anyways, again, that's just my opinion. Heterosexism is the behavior that grants preferential treatment to heterosexual people, reinforces the idea that heterosexuality is somehow better than better than queerness or more right and makes other sexualities invisible. Heterosexual is a person primarily emotionally, physically, and or sexually attracted to members of the opposite sex, also known as straight. And interesting enough, they don't elaborate on that definition. And I'm like, of course you don't have to elaborate on it because it is understood. That is the normal thing. But for some reason, I feel like this movement is all about getting straight people to somehow be. Most straight people are tolerant of this stuff, but sometimes it almost feels like you, as a straight person, need to start feeling bad that you cannot relate to what non straight people do. But then again, that's my sensitivity. That's the way I interpret stuff. I'm not saying that all straight people feel this way, but that's almost how this makes me feel. The way this is portrayed, the way this is phrased, that's how it makes me feel. Homophobia is an umbrella term for a range of negative attitudes, fear, anger, intolerance, resentment, erasure, or discomfort that one may have towards members of LGBTQRBZDA. Yeah, just kidding. Like, I see so many things attached to LGBT community. The term can also connote a fear, disgust, or dislike of being perceived as LGBTQ. Homophobic is a word used to describe an individual who harbors some elements of this range of negative attitudes towards gay people. If only I could make the text bigger. And that's the reason I keep like getting tongue twisted. The term can be extended to bisexual and transgender people as well. However, the terms biphobia and transphobia are used to emphasize the specific biases against individuals of bisexual and transgender communities may be experienced inwardly by someone who identifies as queer. Internalized homophobia. So, isn't that crazy? Within your community, there's actually hate. It's like, what can I say? How can I best compare this? You remember a time in history when the French and the English did not like each other? It's like, okay, they are two white races, but they are actually at war with each other. So it's like within the gay community, you can be at war with another member. It's kind of weird. I would expect that there's solidarity. I know that I'm asking for an ideal world where everyone just gets along with everybody. That is never going to happen. But yeah, that's a big mess. Socially, that is a big mess. Um, are tomboys secretly lesbian? No. And the reason I say that is because when I was younger, I actually considered myself kind of a tomboy. I mean, I was just boyish. But never, ever in my life did I ever contemplate being with a woman, feel attracted to a woman, have a desire for a woman. Woman, nothing. So, tomboys are pretty much, if I had to put it in like lazy terms, just really hardcore females. And what I'm trying to say is females who probably like guns, they don't like to wear dresses, they may like video games, which video games is something that's associated with both genders nowadays. But there was a time in which video games were more popular amongst the guys. So to be someone who is female into games like that, it was considered a tomboyish thing to do. But anyways, that's just me. Homophobia does not exist. No one has an irrational fear of the gays. Hate and disgust is not a phobia. And that I can also agree with, only because gay people are still looking human. When I go to the supermarket, I'm pretty sure that I walk by someone who's gay all the time and I don't really realize it because they look fine. They look the same. There's nothing shocking about them, about their appearance. So, when it comes to homophobia, I guess that just started as, let's say that you're in school and you're hanging out with your friends and whatever, and then someone tries to pick you up, and clearly you're not a gay person. When you know that someone is gay, and you're interacting with them, you wonder if you think, or you wonder if they are having fantasies about you. Like, let's say that I am interacting with some girl and this girl is lesbian. Like, are you dreaming about me? Do you like me? Do you desire me? Why are you conversing with me? Why are you hanging out with me? Do you have any ulterior motives? That may be what triggers homophobia, because it's like, okay, I know that this person is not straight. Is she going to try to pick me up? But of course, most people don't mean you no harm, and they're just people with needs that need to be met. And in this case, it's a social need. So I cannot really say that I would be homophobic about that. Have I felt kind of weird after I learned that someone who I've hung out with and been tight turned out to be bi or gay? Yeah, I did think about it. I'm like, so have you ever secretly had a thing for me? And what they have told me is that I have been platonic, so nothing harmful about that. And I'm like, well, girl, yeah, keep it like that, because I will never, ever swing that way. Let's see. I agree here with Garuda. Yep, hate is hate and disgust is prejudice. Phobia is an irrational fear. Phobias are actually normal, so don't disappear. Calling someone a homophobic means it is natural and okay. Homophobic based on the gay people's logic, and okay to not be homophobic. Okay, that's what I thought you meant. Um, let's see. Did I finish reading the definition? This medical term is considered stigmatizing, in particular due to its history as a category of mental illness, and is discouraged for common use. Gay, lesbian instead. Okay, this is about homosexual as a term. A person primarily physically and or sexually attracted to members of the same gender. Until 1973, homosexuality was classified as a mental disorder in the DSM Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. This is just one of the reasons that there are such heavy negative and clinical connotations to this term. The 70s was not that long ago. What, 45-ish years ago was 1973? So, yeah, that's interesting. There was a study done prior to DADT, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, being revoked about people's feelings towards open queer service members. When asked, how do you feel about open gay and lesbian service members? There was about 65% support at the time. When the question was changed to, how do you feel about open homosexual service members? The same demographic of people being asked, support drops over 20%. There are different connotations to the word homosexual than there are to gay, lesbian individuals for both straight and queer people. Well, that's just psychological. Like, you can say the same phrase in so many different ways, and the perception of a person is going to change based on how you say it. Um, like, there is a difference between saying, honey, can you take out the trash? Versus, motherfucker, why are you so lazy? Go take the damn trash out. Which one do you think is going to have a more positive effect? That more calm, soothing, better sounding, sugar coated version. Lesbian. Women who have the capacity to be attracted romantically, erotically, and or emotionally to other women. LGBTQGSMDSG. Shorthand or umbrella terms for all folks who have a non normative or queer gender or sexuality. Non normative, meaning that within that definition, they have accepted that being queer, gay, trans, bi, all that stuff is not normal. So, interesting. There are many different initialisms people prefer. LGBTQ is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer and or questioning. So QQ or the plus. I think there was a plus sign next to it at some point. Sometimes people add a plus, oh, there it is, at the end in an effort to be more inclusive. GSM is gender and sexual minorities. Again, they themselves are calling themselves a minority because that is true. Only a small percentage of the world population falls under this category. GSM is gender, okay. DSG is diverse sexualities and genders. Other options include the initialism GLBT or LGBT and the acronym quilt bag, queer or questioning, undecided, intersex, lesbian, trans, bisexual, asexual, or allied, and gay or genderqueer. There is no correct initialism or acronym. What is preferred varies by person, region, and often evolves over time. The efforts to represent more and more identities led to some folks describe the ever lengthening initialism as alphabet soup, which was part of the impetus for GSM and DSG. Fuck me. All right. Let's see. I have gay friends doesn't make me gay or like them even less. They are just like me and going through life struggles no different than my own. Ex-lesbians will debunk the term lesbian. I remember when queer was an insult, now they embrace the word. Yeah, I remember that. It should be the GT community, you either straight or gay, no matter if you swing both ways. Gays are not a minority. Well, for me, I look at it as they're a minority because honestly, in my circle, I have always known more straight people than not. I have known people who have experimented, but they have often expressed that they did that out of curiosity, youth, craziness. Um, but but I feel like they would be a minority because otherwise I feel like advertising would look different. Probably the world population would look different. But maybe you mean that in another context. Feel free to elaborate. Lipstick lesbian usually refers to a lesbian with a feminine gender expression. But lesbians are just females who are into other females. Why do you have to stop being feminine? Can be used in a positive or a derogatory way. It is sometimes also used to refer to a lesbian who is assumed to be or passes for straight. Aha. Because the normal thing, the normativity of being feminine is that you're into lipstick, makeup, dresses, heels, perfumes, getting your hair, nails done. Which, I mean, for me, it's I never mess with makeup. So I guess I don't fall under the category of what's normal female behavior, but I am absolutely sure about my orientation. So that sounds a little bit weird that such a term exists. But again, like I said earlier, sometimes we have these couples to where the first thing you're judging is of you two ladies, who's the man in the relationship, you know? So that's what I'm saying. That's what confuses me. Although you are a homosexual couple, you are still picking up behaviors of the opposite sex and implementing into your relationship, but you still do not like the opposite sex? Why? It's like, okay, I'm going to pursue a woman, but it has to be a tomboyish woman because a man doesn't satisfy me. But I am looking for a woman who displays masculine traits. Why not go after a guy? See what I mean? But again, that's just my interpretation. I may be wrong. All right, guys, here it is, metrosexual. A man with a strong aesthetic sense who spends more time, energy, or money on his appearance and grooming than is considered gender normative. So, in other words, a lot of hipsters out there, because I feel like it's usually that hipster community that's looking all fancied up. Um, But again, why does that need to be an orientation? Maybe it's just the guy who's just overall neat, and his profession may allow him to do that. Because usually some guys tend to look like what they perform during a day. Um, like what I'm trying to say is, if you're a teacher, you usually go everywhere pretty dolled up because that's just a good presentation to have. But other people from different professions, you always see them in t-shirts and jeans. So why do you have to say that that's an orientation? I don't see how that changes someone's sexual experience. Um, Humans would not be alive if our parents were gay. Gays are not a minority for the simple fact that their life is a dead end. The GT community is nothing more than a cult. I would like to think I wear the pants. In reality, we share those pants. I know many metrosexuals. Well, I can say that I see a lot of them too. I would rather be covered in dirt, diesel, and grease than be metrosexual. See, for me personally, I find that guys who are Garudians as more attractive because I like to see the fact that you're hardworking. I like to see calluses in your hands. Well, not nothing gross or dramatic, but the fact that you actually do labor, like you use your hands. To me, that's just attractive. And if you come back from work and you're all like you experience some sun damage because you were under the sun a lot and you have that scent of I've been outside all day, to me that's attractive. Most people find that gross, but unless you clearly just came back from the sewer and maybe a little what's the word? God, the word left me. Like squeamish about it, but still I like knowing that you don't spend too much time in your appearance because I think that vanity is something that for some people it's not a healthy thing because you become too obsessed in your appearance. And I just don't like to be obsessed with anything. Like look at me. I don't even spend a minute of the day in my appearance except to take a shower, of course. So to be with a guy who spends more time getting ready than me, that would be kind of like weird. I'm someone who, unless I have to shave my legs and wash my hair, I can be ready within 20 minutes. But if I have to shave and wash my hair and everything, that usually takes me 30 to 40 minutes. But that includes taking the shower, brushing my teeth, and being like put together, lotion on, clothes. So to spend more than an hour to me, that is just, oh, what am I doing with my life? It's unacceptable. Um, my good friend admitted to plucking his eyebrows. I was like, are you metrosexual? He was laughing. See, there are some guys out there who get their eyebrows done looking like girls, and those I'm suspicious of. I like eyebrows that are relatively bushy. Just guys seem to have perfect eyebrows by nature. I guess the only thing that I can see myself being like, maybe if you trim that, you may enhance your appearance, is if you have a unibrow. Like, I'm not trying to say I'm a hater about or against unibrows. It's just that unibrows to me are just weird. Um, but but if you have excess hair, which I can't be talking because I had an accident, so I'm missing part of my eyebrow. But like some people, depending on your eyebrow shape, you may have like extra hairs up here and stuff. That I think if you get rid of it, you can have a neater appearance. But so, and there's this who I know who I'm always talking about his eyebrows. I'm like, dude, you have the most perfect eyebrows ever. Do you do anything to them? He's like, no, I don't. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm just grateful that I have thick eyebrows because if I had inherited my mother's eyebrows, that's like having nothing. So she has to be a little artistic and kind of like put shadow on them and kind of use the pencil as well because they're just so thin. It's like her maternal side of the family, they're like that. They're pretty much eyebrowless. And I think her father, my grandfather, barely had any eyebrows too. I don't remember seeing him with that many eyebrows. So yeah, I inherited my father's eyebrows, and I am eternally grateful for that. Because, yeah, me without eyebrows, that would be terrible. Oh my god, if the wife took less than 30 minutes getting her face on, this night is not going too well. Oh man. No lie, unibrows are cute. Society will just unfairly judge them though. Unibrows on females to me are kind of odd. But if a guy has a unibrow, but let's say that it's close to a unibrow, like it's close but not all the way unibrow, I think I can tolerate that. But there are some unibrows that, to me personally, they don't look too nice. I guess it's just not my beauty standard, I guess. But if I happen to fall for a guy who has a unibrow, of course I'm falling for him for reasons that go beyond his eyebrows, you know? But if I were painting my ideal guy, he does not have a unibrow. Ever. But anyways. MSM WSW. Or should I say W? Men who have sex with men or women who have sex with women to distinguish sexual behaviors from sexual identities. Because a man is straight, it doesn't mean he's not having sex with men. Often used in the field of HIV, AIDS education, prevention, and treatment. In other words, that's a way to keep yourself in the closet for longer. Is that what it's trying to say? MX as in an abbreviation of capital M and X and a period. Lowercase x and a period. Mix or SCHWA. SCHWA. An honorific Mr., Mrs., etc., that is gender neutral. It is often the option of choice for folks who do not identify with the gender binary. Mix Smith is a great teacher. Why is this a thing? There's something else that I saw one time on a headline that I thought was fucking weird. What was it? It had to do with a race. I think it was the Latino race. Latinx. They put a fucking X on it. Why? Why do you do that? I think it was it. I'm pretty sure that was it. Because I was just shocked at it. I had never seen that before. And I'm like, what the fuck is a Latinx? Latinx. To me, it sounds like the brand of some clothes or something. Like a latex company. Latinx. The fuck is that? Yeah, that. What is that? Just say Latino or Latina if that's even a thing. Because to me, the only way that I know the word Latin is from the language that's long gone, but is pretty much the root of any of the Romance languages out there. But yeah, what Latinx? What the hell? I only saw that like a few months ago. Probably one of those immigration cases or something, articles that we keep hearing about. But yeah, that was shocking for me. Outing, involuntary or unwanted disclosure of another person's sexual orientation, gender identity, or intersex status. It means all people or something. Pansexual. Okay, guys, here it is. A person who experiences sexual, romantic, physical, and or spiritual attraction to members of all gender identities, expressions, often used or often shortened to pan. So basically, pansexual just means that I can be a girl, I can mess with straight guys, straight women, gay men, trans women, trans men, queers, all that stuff. But if you are someone who identifies themselves as, let's pick me, I am a female, let me call myself a pansexual female. How am I supposed to be able to pick up a gay guy if the gay guy is not attracted to me in the first place? So pansexual means I am not straight. Yeah, which is what gay means, which is what bi means. But I guess bi is you are semi straight, but also semi not straight. It's crazy to me. If someone identifies as gay, it's because they're absolutely sure that they can only mess with members of their same sex. So why is pansexual even a thing? How is it possible for pansexual to be a thing? Unless it's trying to say that, let's say, men who are absolutely certain that they are gay have a burn for a woman one night and they end up doing it, which is weird because I would think that if you identify yourself as one orientation, that's it. Why don't you call yourself occasionally bi then? Because if you're still going after females, even if it's just for the experience of it, why not call yourself bi? Momentarily bi or something. Passing is trans people being accepted as or able to pass for a member of their self-identified gender identity regardless of sex assigned at birth without being identified as trans. An LGB queer individual who is believed to be perceived as straight. Passing is a controversial term because it often is focusing on the person who is observing or interacting with the individual who is passing and puts the power or authority in observer rather than giving the agency to the individual. While some people are looking to pass or perhaps more accurately be accepted for the identity that they feel most aligns with who they are, passing is not always a positive experience. Some individuals experience a sense of erasure or a feeling of being invisible to their own community when they are perceived to be a part of the dominant group. Well then. PGPs is preferred gender pronouns. Often used during introductions, becoming more common in educational institutions. Many suggest removing the preferred because it indicates flexibility and or the power for the speaker to decide which pronouns to use for someone else. We live in a society in which these days you go to school and apparently it is being taught that this is a thing. This is being normalized now. And to me, that is just strange. I guess I happened to graduate just at the cutoff time before this becomes a thing, before this became a thing. Polyamorous refers to the practice of desire to or orientation towards having ethically honest and consensual non-monogamous relationships. Relationships that may include multiple partners. This may include open relationships, polyfidelity, fidelity, fidelity, which involves more than two people being in romantic and or sexual relationships, which is not open to additional partners amongst many other setups. Basically, if you're a polyamorous person, I would have to accuse you of being someone who would potentially consider being bigamous or trigamous or quadrupogamous. But yeah, for me, polyamory is one of those things that I just disagree with because there is people who just like to be very, I guess, sexually explorative. If you are, good for you, but don't expect for the rest of us to be cool with dating you if we actually want to settle down and not treat the matter as casual. So I think that you can be emotionally polyamorous, which is you can have a thing for more than one person because of the way their personality is. But honestly, that's kind of more difficult to control. But when it comes to actually physically engaging and even possibly being committed to more than one partner, I can't be cool with that. But then again, are humans overall creatures who are able to be monogamous? Because you know how there are many animals in nature who have multiple partners and that's just normal for them? Are we as humans being, in the quest of being civilized, are we being altered with what our biology indicates? But I don't know the answer to that one. I'm just throwing that out there for you guys to just digest or inform me on. Queer is used as an umbrella term to describe individuals who don't identify as straight, also used to describe people who have a non normative gender identity, or as a political affiliation. Due to its historical use as a derogatory term, it is not embraced or used by all members of the LGBTQ community. The term queer can often be used interchangeably with LGBTQ, queer folks, instead of LGBTQ folks. If a person tells you they are not comfortable with you referring to them as queer, don't. Always respect the individual's preferences when it comes to identity labels, particularly contentious ones or ones with troubled histories, like this. If a person calls me glasses and I tell them to not call me glasses, I hope that they stop calling me glasses. But sometimes people just like to mess around and keep calling you glasses because you have glasses and therefore are a four-eyed person. Or sometimes they may call you that too. Hey, four eyes, I'm not four-eyed, I am Zam. Respect me as such. But, I mean, I guess it just depends on your sensitivity as an individual because some people just will not give a damn. Some people can go beyond that. But when it comes to this, I can understand why you may be a little concerned when it comes to that. Use the word queer only if you are comfortable explaining to others what it means because some people feel uncomfortable with the word. It is best to feel comfortable with explaining why you choose to use it if someone inquires. Why do you have to be prepared to give explanations? If it's something personal, you don't have to be explaining yourself. There's a lot of a lot of personal details about myself that I don't go around divulging because it's part of my private life. So if you preferring the term queer is something that you do, it's something personal, you shouldn't need to be explaining yourself why you prefer that, no matter how much uh, controversial history is attached to that. But anyways, that's just me. QPOC, QTPOC, initialisms that stand for queer people of color and queer and or trans people of color. Oh my god. I thought that might be it, and I'm actually shocked that this is a thing. I feel like this perpetuates the thing based on races. This is no longer a human issue. Now this is turning into a race issue as well. Like, seriously, why can you not? I just thought of something. It's like feminism. Do you guys agree or disagree that feminism tends to favor a specific group of females more than another group of females? Because I have heard a lot of times that, where are the feminists at whenever something happens to a sister or something like that? Well, isn't feminism all about female rights? Which means there's more females to the world than, say, white women. So, yeah, this is something else. So if you're filling out an application and for some reason, let's say that they ask what your orientation is, you have to specify that you're also a person of color on top of that. It's crazy to me. Let's see. How do you pronounce it? QPOC. Let's call it that. QPOC. Feminism favors white lesbians. I agree. That seems to be the trend these days. Romantic attraction is a capacity that evokes the want to engage in romantic, intimate behavior. Dating, relationships, marriage experience in varying degrees from little to none to intense, often conflated with sexual attraction, emotional attraction, and or spiritual attraction. Okay, that's basic. Same gender loving. Sometimes used by some members of the African American or Black community to express a non straight sexual orientation without relying on terms and symbols of European descent. Sex assigned at birth, or SAB, SAAB. A phrase used to intentionally recognize a person's assigned sex, not gender identity, sometimes called designated sex at birth, DSAB, or sex coercively assigned at birth, SCAB, in other words, trying to say that a doctor doesn't know what he's doing, or specifically used as assigned male at birth, AMAB, AMAB, or assigned female at birth, AFAB, AFAB. Jenny was assigned male at birth but identifies as a woman. And this is that thing that just makes me kind of face palm from time to time, because if you are born with male traits, you are going to be considered a man. Period. Accept it. If mentally you feel like something else, then okay, but I feel like my intellect is insulted when I am told that if I see a human being who is much bigger than me, has broader shoulders than me, is stronger than me, just more massive than me, has a lower pitched voice than me, has facial hair, and is lacking some elements in his upper body and possessing extra elements in his lower bodies, I am wrong for thinking that is a male. That's weird to me. It's just weird to me. Or pan, just playing around. If you are born with a baby shrimp, you are a male baby. Oh man. Sexual attraction is the capacity that evokes the want to engage in physical, intimate behavior, kissing, touching, intercourse, experienced in varying degrees from little to none to intense, often conflated with romantic attraction, emotional attraction, and or spiritual attraction. Sexual orientation. The type of sexual, romantic, emotional, spiritual attraction one has the capacity to feel for some others, generally labeled based on the gender relationship between the person and the people they are attracted to, often confused with sexual preference. Fuck, I'm done. I'm done. Sexual preference, the types of sexual intercourse, stimulation, and gratification one likes to receive and participate in. Generally, when this term is used, it is being mistakenly interchanged with sexual orientation, creating an illusion that one has a choice or preference in who they are attracted to. I have no comment. Yes, I do. It's the same fucking thing. I give up. It is the same fucking thing. Preference and orientation. The whole reason we have sexual orientations is because if you identify yourself as a gay man, that means that you prefer to go out with men and do things with men. But all of a sudden, I'm supposed to believe that it is wrong for me to think that a gay man has a preference for men. What? Just what? Yeah, just no. It means the same fucking thing. It's like you have a glass, it is half full or half empty. they both mean the same fucking thing, but you're trying to throw psychology in there by saying, if you say that the glass is half full, you are a more positive person than if you say that the glass is half empty. Like, if I say, honey, bring me a glass of water, and you bring me a glass of water, and I drink half of it, I am going to say the glass now is only half empty because originally it was full and now I have emptied half of it. But if I say, honey, bring me some water, and you bring me a half full glass of water, I am going to say the glass is half full now because you only filled it up halfway. So it is the same fucking thing. It is. Period. But once again, guys, remember, this is just Zam's opinion. I am not saying that I am absolutely correct or absolutely right or that my way of viewing it is me trying to like reshape the way people think. I am just a mere mortal. But it is the same fucking thing. That's all you gotta know. If we are going to have this conversation, you have to be prepared that I think that they are the same thing. And I think I have a strong point, valid point. Let's see. I never thought about it like that. Preference is for when you have multiple options in orientation, generally, say people who are attracted to more than one thing might prefer one over the other, so not relevant to straight people. What? Scoliosexual. It is spelled Skolio sexual. Being primarily sexually, romantically, and or emotionally attracted to some genderqueer, transgender, transsexual, or non-binary people. So in other words, you like anything that has undergone some kind of sex reassignment procedure. The absolute more, what is it? Non-normative thing. Spiritual attraction. A capacity that evokes the want to engage in intimate behavior based on one's experience with, interpretation of, or belief in the supernatural, religions, teachings, messages from a deity. Experience in varying degrees, from little to none to intense, often conflated with sexual attraction, romantic attraction, and or emotional attraction. Well, I sincerely think that if I am spiritually attracted to someone, I will feel compelled to engage in intercourse with that person, just as if I were emotionally attracted. Because the way Zam operates in the dating market is, if I like you, then you have the potential, and if I grant you the we are dating label, pretty much all of that is implied to happen. The intimacy aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it, the spiritual aspect of it. I would hope that you actually get involved with someone who shares the same values as you spiritually, because it's like I said a few days ago about why do I need to be cool? Like someone asked me, how would I feel if someone tried to convert me into their religion? And I'm like, if a guy out there is trying to get me to change my ways to suit him, we do not need to be dating. I do not need to be changing what I like and who I am to be suitable for him. At that point, we are incompatible and we can no longer date. It's that simple. That simple. At Ollie Savos, I felt emotionally and mentally stimulated, attracted to people without being sexually attracted to them. Interesting. So, I understand that is a thing because I have had the misfortune of dating someone who I was incompatible with, and it turns out that I was romantic and I liked physical affection, but this man was not. So, therefore, his way of going about dating was significantly different. So, at that point, we just had to part ways. Stealth is a trans person who is not out as trans and is perceived by others as cisgender. Straight is a person primarily emotionally, physically, and or sexually attracted to people who are not in their same sex or gender. A more colloquial term for the word heterosexual or cisgender, right? A stud is most commonly used to indicate a black, African American, and or Latina, masculine, lesbian, queer woman, also known as butch or aggressive. Third gender. For a person who does not identify with either man or woman but identifies with another gender. This gender category is used by societies that recognize 3 or more genders, both contemporary and historic, and is also a conceptual term meaning different things to different people who use it as a way to move beyond the gender binary. What is the physical appearance of a third gender person? If I were walking down the street and I see a third gender human, what characteristics will this human being possess for me to distinguish them as an individual who does not correspond to any of the currently established and understood as existent binaries? Someone please throw a lifesaver at this girl because she is sweating. I think I saw a comment coming in. Spiritual attraction is not sexual. Me and my male friends' spirit attraction, I call red flag on that term. Spiritual attraction is not a gender. Look, it's about 6 different kinds of complicated. I'm a straight guy, so I can only speak as a spectator, in which situation I think there is a lot to be said for just minding my own business. A third gender human, Chewbacca. I still think people are conflating personality with gender. Personalities are infinite and genders are binary. Exactly. That I can comprehend. That I can accept. That I can digest. And I can be convinced by. But if you have a different kind of mindset, lifestyle, preference, adventure, spirit, whatever, you can be all that, but the reality of it is that biologically it is only possible for you to be one or the other, or if you experience the misfortune, let's call it a misfortune, of being born a hermaphrodite, then that is a medical situation, that is a mistaken DNA, that is a mutation, whatever you want to call it. But to have a different lifestyle or attitude is just no. No. Garuda says, what is a binary? Binary is basically just male or female. Like, it sums up that male or female question. So non-binary is that you are neither male or female, which if you ask me, it's impossible because what I commonly see is male or female. There are 2 options. Sex is not an option. I think the theory is what you refer to as gender, they refer to as sex, and what they call gender is a system of mental constructs that they were brought up around. Exactly. So gender is pretty much the roles aspect of it. Like I mentioned earlier, usually females are associated with being the givers of life, the caregivers, and the upbringers, whereas the men are the gatherers, builders, etc. That is the gender role. Now, sex is what you physically are. So, me as a female, that is my sex. I am a female. I have an opening between my legs and a pair of organs that could secrete milk in the event that the male seed intersects one of my female sex cells. That's pretty much it. Where am I? Not saying I presume to know better than anyone. That's just what I think people are trying to say. Yeah, it's cool. I pretty much think that everyone just has their own way of phrasing things. Some people are better with words than others. And Ollie, after today, you know damn well how true that is. That sounds insane. If so, they are not reassigning words to different meanings. Ah, you hit a very good point. These days, people are taking words that already exist and have been absolutely stamped on dictionaries, and they're trying to alter the terms because they are just painfully unimaginative. That's just my opinion. Keep that in mind. Anything that I say here is just my opinion. I'm not trying to preach anything. Welcome to academia. Unfortunately, gender roles don't exist. They do. Unfortunately, people used to dictate what was manly or girly. That's what gender roles mean. Giving birth is not a gender role, it is nature. See, when you put it like that, I can understand where Garuda is coming from. Because remember that society and the conducts within it are pretty much man-made. What would have happened if we did not try to like mentally domesticate ourselves? If you have a child and you do not raise it to conform to the norms of what goes on in society, how do you think that child is going to behave? That motherfucker's gonna be wild. He's going to be touching things, breaking things, exploring things, trying to taste things, eating things. You have to civilize it. So, because we are being civilized, that's where the gender roles come from. Because males fit a certain, what is it, mold, then they are saying, okay, if men are bigger and more muscular and stronger, they should be the builders. If the women are, on average, smaller physically and physically weaker, and they also give birth, giving birth is something complicated and sensitive, they should have other kinds of tasks, such as upbringing and those things, just to fit the mold of society. Just bear that in mind anytime you think of roles and genders and all that stuff. Let's see, where am I at? Same fucking thing. Give me an example. Well, like, say, people used to say the woman's place is in the kitchen, or as a homemaker, that's a gender role, whereas the man gives up everything for work to provide for them. The only thing that used to separate what people were expected to do was gender. If we keep on the feminist train, women will get the right to vote. Just kidding, obviously. All tribes people dress the same, gender roles do not exist. See, you said it. Old tribes. But unfortunately, a group of people centuries ago decided that their way of life was superior to the tribal way of life, and therefore the tribal norms and customs have become defunct. And it only lingers in the memories of the few who have survived. Let's see. Okay, I'm pretty much caught up. Well, guys, this is interesting. I am bummed out that I did not go through all of them, but I have to go now. But I shall wrap this up soon enough. Like, I want to make it a goal to be done with this topic at least by the end of the weekend, because it's been postponed for a while, and there is a separate article that I want to read from, because it sounds like it really is going to educate us on how to not be confused about this matter anymore. So anyways, we shall resume that So I'm gonna catch up with comments, and then after that, Zam is out. Tribes also cut people's hearts out for fun. Yeah, the tribal way of life definitely had its insane stuff going on, but to completely wipe that out and claim that a specific culture is superior to what other um, cultures like the tribes were doing, to me, that's the crazy part. Like, don't be involved in that business and don't try to say that your way of life is better. You don't know what these people's beliefs are. That's why they have their own little land to do that stuff, and you have your own little land. How about if you mind your business in your little land as opposed to just mindlessly conquering other places and just destroying those cultures and those norms? Tribal customs had good stuff to them. It wasn't all about the terrible things. Like everyone, every single group of people has their good stuff going on, just as well as they have their shady stuff going on. That if you're a powerful society, that does not give you the right to just go in there and wipe that out from the face of the planet. Let's see. Old matriarchal tribes are a pulse. Probably not the best paragon tribes. Modern Western people murder babies via abortion. Good point. Good point. They are made to be smashed by patriarchies. Fair Garuda, however, infanticide was a common practice for a long time ago. Yeah, yeah, none of this is new, honestly. But but I guess as a modern society, there is just stuff that shocks us because it is not as frequent and normal as it used to be. And of course, with the implementation of laws, some things are just unacceptable to have recurring this day and age. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really have to bail now, but I'll be back. I'll be back. So I'm just going to mentally read what you guys said, and then I'll be gone. Tribes don't know can kill 200 people, 1,000 people. We are far superior to humans even 100 years ago.